Hi everyone, my name is Grace and I'm going to teach you how to play Emily by Joanna Newsom. I appreciate a lot of the love that I've been getting on my cover of this song, and someone asked if I could do a tutorial of it, and honestly I hadn't considered it because I kind of improvised my part for it, so I was like not sure exactly how to teach this, but I'm going to give it a go, so just keep that in mind. I'm not really teaching like the part that's in my cover, I'm not really teaching exactly what Joanna does on the recording, I'm just teaching how to play this in your own way. So before we get into this in earnest, I'm going to be going through all the chords and telling you just like what notes are in them, because I think that's going to be important for the way that I want to explain the rest of the song. But if you already understand chords and you know, like if I say an E flat major chord, you already know what is in that, then just skip to the section for learning the beginning of the song. I will be putting timestamps in the description like I always do for my tutorials, so feel free to just use whatever you need. I have made this chord chart. It's just a lyric sheet with chords above it, so it's like a very basic chord chart, but these are the chords that I use. They're slightly different from the ones on, I guess, Ultimate Guitar or wherever they're available, but I did use those for reference and then changed some of the chords and created my own chart. So this chart is available on my Patreon for free. That link will also be in the description. Also, I don't want to say anything that's redundant to a video I already made, which was about arranging songs on piano. So if you want to check that video out, please do. It's like the on a good day tutorial plus how to arrange songs for piano. And a lot of what I talk about in that video is super applicable to this song, so feel free to check that out. I'll also put that in the description and probably linked at the end. But yeah, that's all the housekeeping stuff, I guess. I'm gonna just get started. I'm gonna start by showing you every chord in the song and just stating the notes that are inside that so that you can use that information to do some of the other things that I am gonna show you throughout the song. So the first chord cycle is E flat, E flat, G, B flat, G minor, G, B flat, D, F, F, A, C, C minor, C, E flat, G. The second cycle is G sharp, C, D sharp, C, C, E, G, 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 B, D, and A minor, A, C, E. The next cycle is all repeats of that, so I'll get into that later, but then later on there is a D minor chord, D, F, A, an E minor chord, E, G, B, an A major chord, A, C sharp, E, a B minor, B, D, F sharp, a D major, D, F sharp, A, and I believe that is it. And when I say it, I mean, yeah, that was a lot of chords, but so I think there are 4 sections in the song really. There's the beginning part, which is repeated 3 different times with new lyrics, so we'll call that A. There's the We've seen those mountains, G sharp starting section, which is also 3 times with different lyrics, so we can call that B. There's a really short section of Help me find my way back in, which I suppose we can call C, and it only happens twice. Then there's a D section that is And Emily, I saw you last night by the river. And the first time that happens, it goes right into Meteorite with the same chords, but the second time the Meteorite part comes in, it's on different chords. It's actually on the beginning chords. Yeah, let's just get into it. So the A part starts E flat, chord, G minor, F, C, and it does that on a loop for all the way until we get to We've seen those mountains. So it's gonna be like the meadowlark and the chimney and the sparrow. And I like to start just with the bass line that first cycle. Set to the sky in a flying spree for the sport of the pharaoh. And start adding low chords. Little while later, the Pharisees dragged a comb through the meadow. Do you remember what they called up to you and me in our window? rusty light on the pines tonight, sun-born wine lord or marrow, into the bones of the birches and the spires of the churches jut now from the shadow, and the yoke and the axe and the old smokestacks and the pail and the barrow, and everything sloped like it was dragged from a rope in the mouth of the south below. So all I'm doing in that section is kind of jamming on these 4 chords in a loop. I'm mostly playing the root note and the bass, sometimes in an octave and some kind of rhythm pattern, usually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and answering it with a little bit of rhythmic counterpoint in my right hand. So I generally just listened to the recording and tried to echo what was happening rhythmically. I didn't exactly echo very often what was happening melodically because there's a lot going on with the string arrangements, but I was just doing a little bit of filling out space in the same way that the string arrangements do. So like, I'm really just playing the chord tones. So basically I'm just playing the notes like I described each chord has, but I'm not necessarily just dropping the chord. I'm kind of playing the bass, then the right hand, or back and forth, or creating a little melody like. So it starts to sound really fancy, but it's really just like playing the chords with a little bit of rhythmic separation instead of just straight. And another thing I like to do in this section, other than, like I said, start low and then kind of add more rhythmic texture as I go, and jump a little higher, not very high, but just like another octave up as I go a little bit. It creates some momentum. Another thing I like to do is usually around, maybe there's a rusty light in the pines tonight or so, I'll start doing this thing of taking the 3rd and 4th of every chord and like jumping up and down the keyboard with it. So like this. There is a rusty light in the pines tonight, sun-born wine lord or marrow, to the bones of the birches and the spires of the churches jut now from the shadow. So yeah, just that kind of thing. And also this rhythm pattern I think comes back a lot in the arrangement of the original song, like just that rhythm. So I try to throw that in a lot of the time. That kind of thing. And that really starts to make it feel more like the full arrangement on the recording rather than just like piano chords. So here's the B section. Starts with G sharp, and I tend to kind of really hit this. We've seen those mountains kneeling fountain and gray, and then back off a little bit. We thought our very hearts would up and melt away. Just do really dramatic. Then from the snow in the nighttime, just going and going, and the stirring of wind chimes in the morning, in the morning. So 2 things I really like to do. One is to attack a higher bass line and then a lower one. I think it adds a little bit of drama, pulls everything kind of to a heavy place, which I think this section calls for. And then I like to do slightly arpeggiated, more of that rhythmic melodic stuff I was talking about in the first section. I like to kind of amp that up even more in this section because it's kind of got this dreamlike feeling and I want to bring that out. And that's the B section. So then we get to helps me find my way back in. In this section, I like to do that arpeggio type thing, but kind of quieter, and really bring out the drama here. go up to that to build to and Emily. Then the D section starts, and Emily, I saw you last night by the river. Sort of create some space there, but bring it down on the keyboard to a lower octave. You taught me the names of the stars overhead that I wrote down in my ledger, though. Then frowning at the angle where they were lost and slipped under forever in the mud cloud, mica spangled like the sky been breathing on a mirror. And so I bring back a little bit of that melodic stuff, a little bit more rhythmic busyness in that section, and I'm still keeping it really low and a little bit spacious, a little like reserved. And then again, anyhow, I sat by your side by the water. You taught me the names of the stars overhead that I wrote down in my ledger, though all I knew of the road universe were those Pleiades loosed in December. I promised you I'd set them to verse so I'd always remember. So building throughout that section a little bit more, never quite hitting that peak, so always like bringing it heavier and louder a little bit, but then bringing it back a little bit, so that when you do hit the Meteorite section, you still have somewhere to go. And I'm always doing this little extra E minor at the end to create that space. I don't do all of the like instrumental transitions when I play this song on piano. I probably could now, but when I learned it, it was about 2 years ago, and I just kind of wasn't able to do that at the time. So yeah, I just don't do them, and I think it works okay as long as you kind of just create the space that you need to, so that you can kind of get into the next section in a good feeling way. And then you go right into that the meteorite is the source of the light, and the meteor's just what we see. It's the same chords. And the meteoroid is a stone that's devoid of the fire that propelled it to thee. Told the meteorites just what causes the light, and the meteor's how it's perceived. And the meteoroid's a bone thrown from the void that lies quiet, an offering to thee. And I always do that little thing because it's kind of in the string arrangement, and I really like how it is. So I go E, F sharp, G, A, and back, and otherwise kind of holding the chord still. And then a little bass line. And a little space. Then I'm going to go up an octave and bring the bass line up really 2 octaves to start the next A section. You came and lay a cold compress upon the mess I'm in. And I like to really create space in this one. Just play the chords. Through the windows wide and cried, amen, amen, amen. The whole world stopped to hear you holler. You looked down and saw now what was happening. So I bring it down after a little while whenever it feels right. And then always when I do the lines are fading, I like to go back to that arpeggio thing. I think it makes so much sense there. I think that's kind of what the arrangement is doing on the recording. The lines are fading in my kingdom, though I have never known a way to border them in. And the muddy mouths of baboons and sows and the grouse and the horse and the hen kind of, as that goes, add more bass line, make the bass line drop an octave. So at first I'm just playing like the one right below it, and then as time goes I'm playing both of the next octaves down. And the last cycle through I like to stop the arpeggio thing and just kind of like bang, because I think it really goes into "in due time we will see the far butte lit by a flare," and I always go. So that's just playing the A minor arpeggio down. I've seen your bravery and I will follow there. And sometimes I like to do that. I don't remember whether I did it on my cover or not, but I really like that. And then of course, and roll through the night, I'm so healthy, gone healthy all of a sudden, in search of a midwife who could help me, who could help me. So for the second half of that, when it starts with the F cycle instead of the G sharp cycle of that section, I like to, bring it down, make it a little bit more emotional, sort of like intimate feeling, because that's what the lyrics kind of say to me. It's really what this entire tutorial is about, or like how I learned this song, so that's how I'm teaching it to you, is just to follow the lyrics and kind of the mood of the song and try to do musical things that echo that, which I think is how it was arranged on the recording. And so since I can't exactly be a string arrangement and a harp on this piano, I just tried to echo the mood and feeling and rhythms and stuff instead of trying to copy exactly what's going on in the recording. Anyway, then we get to another C section. Help me find my way back in, and there are worries where I've been. And I do that one about the same as the other one. And say, in the lee of the bay, don't be bothered. Here's the D section. Leave your troubles here where the tugboat sheer the water from the water, flanked by furrows curling back like a match held up to a newspaper. And I kind of think of this as like a false ending. Emily, they'll follow your lead by the letter, and that just comes in and slaps you. And I make this claim, and I'm not ashamed to say I knew you better. What they've seen is just a beam of your song that banishes winter. And I kind of feel like it's another false ending. Let us go, though we know it's a hopeless endeavor. The ties that bind, they are barbed and spined and hold us close forever. Though there is nothing would help me come to grips with the sky that is gaping and yawning. There is a song I walk with on my lips as you sailed your great ship towards the morning. So that one I play pretty similar, I'd say, to the first one, maybe just like overall more intensity, and then I do these kind of false endings, which I don't really do the first time around to the same extent, and having that energy of like resolve and then hitting it again is part of what makes it not drag, even though you know, as this song is very long and the sections repeat a lot, you kind of have to add these little moments of drama in so that it doesn't kind of get monotonous. And now we're up to the last A part, which is my favorite section of the song. On the recording, this is about the last 4 minutes that we have left now. So, come on home, the poppies are all grown knee deep by now. Blossoms all have fallen and the pollen ruins the plow. And I basically like to do this just similar to the second A part for a lot of it, but I don't leave out the bass line this time around. I keep it really slow and empty and sparse, but I don't keep it quite as high as I normally do with the second A part, because I feel like it adds a little bit of weight to this part that feels very emotional to me, and I want that sort of intimate feeling, and for some reason to me holding low bass notes is like what really creates that. Whereas I think that having the high notes by themselves is sort of like more almost brave sounding, if that makes sense, which to me is how the second one is. Come on home, the poppies are all grown knee-deep by now. Blossoms all have fallen, and the pollen ruins the plow. Peonies not in the prison while they wetly bow with hydrocephalic listlessness hands mop up their brows. So really until then, which is already half of this section, I keep it really, really slow and restrained, almost like this longing or exhausted feeling. And then I like to jump into the arpeggios on everything with wings is restless, aimless, drunk and dour. Butterflies and birds collide at high ungodly hours, and my clay-colored motherlessness rangely reclines. Come on home now, my bones are dollars with vines. So basically the same in the second half as the other two, but for me, I really like to throw my kind of energy behind those lyrics just because they're some of my personal favorite lyrics. That's kind of where I let loose. And I just love this section on the recording when the jaw harp comes in at Pop pointed out to me for the 100th time tonight the way the ladle leads to a dirt red bullet of light. So even though I am not myself a jaw harp, I try to create that kind of bouncy and surprising energy in that section. And then I immediately kind of drop back for Squint skyward and listen. Again, like I have in the other ones, sort of like the G sharp section is the energetic one, and then the F section of this B part is kind of more restrained. Squint skyward and listen. Loving him, we move within his borders, just asterisms, and the stars set order. We could stand for a century, staring with our heads cocked in the broad daylight at this thing. Joy landlocked in bodies that don't keep dumbstruck with the sweetness of being. We don't be told take this and eat this. To get into the Meteorite part at the ending, you really have to start to build that towards the end. So I do start that section very low and sweet, and in the last couple of lines I kind of start to bring it up. I bring the bass line down again. I start just playing louder and kind of pushing my voice a little bit in a way that feels anxious, scared, and a little bit euphoric. And then, as I said at the beginning of the song, the second Meteorite section, which we're now at, is actually over the A section chords. So, told the meteorite is the source of the light, and the meteors just what we see. Meteoroid is a stone that's devoid of the fire that propelled it to thee. Told the meteorite's just what causes the light and the meteors So that's basically just an A section, but with different vocal melody over it. I think the outro lasts a little bit longer than I play it in the recording. There's just this like lovely string stuff going on, which I can't really mimic that easily. But yeah, those are just the chords and some of the arranging ideas that I use for it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this slightly unconventional tutorial. I know a lot of you just enjoyed my cover and were interested in knowing how to play this, so I thought I'd show you how I play it. A lot of my other tutorials are a lot more structured, but that's because the way that I play or learned those other songs is a lot more structured. And the way that I play this is basically just based on how I feel and what I want to do that day. And that's kind of how I learned it too. I've listened to the song hundreds of times because it's my favorite song. So that was my journey with it, and that was my journey to learning it. I'm sorry if this wasn't quite as specific as you might have liked, but hopefully just being able to have the camera on the keys while I was playing could at least help you to see what I was doing and to look at it and copy it if that works for you. Also, yeah, I don't know, I just wanted to say, like, when I made this cover, like when I started learning this song, I really did not think that anyone was gonna care. I just was learning it for myself because it's my favorite song, and I wanted to put it on YouTube because I was proud of my accomplishment of having learned this long song. At the time, it was the longest thing I'd learned. It might still be. I think it's actually still the longest song I've ever learned. So that just felt like an accomplishment, and I just wanted to like put that out there and be proud. I didn't think it was gonna get really any views in comparison to my other stuff, but it did. In fact, it's one of my most viewed videos on my channel at all. Thank you so much for sort of validating the idea that I can play music that I actually love and share that with people, and that like there are people in the world that are gonna actually care about that. It's just like really meaningful to me to do this and to share this stuff. So drop me a comment about your process of learning this. I'd love to hear how this goes for you, or other songs, or anything you might need to actually get there with this. If this wasn't enough info, I'm happy to provide other information in the comments. See you next time. Much love.